Welcome back to Sports Renegades here on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stuprich.
And I'm Ryan Risky.
And we talked about the White Sox and how bad they were. We talked about the Blackhawks. And now we're going to talk about the Cubs, as the Cubs are on a roll as we speak, actually. They're up 1-0 on a Ben Zobrist home run.
And he needed that.
And yes, he definitely needed that. He's been in a little bit of a slump as far as hitting. He had a couple hits a few days ago, but
it's so weird talking about a guy being in a slump when he's hitting 322.
Yeah,
that's how good he has.
That's because he was batting 350 something earlier in the season. So was Fowler at one point.
Fowler's getting the day off. Almora's starting in center field, and absolutely he deserves it after pinch hitting the game-winning double in the ninth inning yesterday. And Jason Hayward got another hit. His average is up to 239. So as you and I predicted, he was going to get it going soon.
That's right. We looked at his month-by-month splits, and he definitely plays a lot better in June. July and August are his best months by far, and he's still pretty good in September.
We both knew that he would eventually heat up, and that's why we were trying our best not to get frustrated with him, especially when you see how good his defense has been.
Mm-hmm.
He's been one of the best defensive fielders. In fact, the Cubs have been the best defensive team in baseball this year. I saw on ESPN had a stats showing the versatility of all the Cub players, and so that they led the majors in defensive runs saved with their defense. And Bryant's gotten better defensively. Baez has been turning heads with his play. Addison Russell has been terrific.
Yeah.
Anthony Rizzo's doing his thing at first base, and Ben Zobrist has been a great addition to the team as well.
There's really nothing to complain about defensively, that's for sure. And offensively, they're really starting to all hit a little more consistently together, which is a good sign.
Right, and as we said, just think about what this offense will be when Hayward heats up, and he's definitely been pulling the ball with more authority. We saw in that Braves series that series at Atlanta probably was the turning point in his season, because he was driving the ball, he was showing off his power, hit a couple home runs, a lot of extra base hits.
Mm-hmm.
I know in the Sunday game he hit a double off the wall that looked like it was going to get out, and I know he hit a long home run in one of the games.
Yep.
So obviously, he's starting to get his confidence back. He's showing off his power. He's hitting the ball with more authority. He looks more comfortable at the plate. He's still drawing walks, and he's still doing his thing in the field.
Yeah, and everything is going together, and of course the starting pitching has still been outstanding. So that's great to see. That first game of the National Series, Kyle Hendricks, he still played pretty well, but when you go up against Scherzer, when Scherzer's on his game like that, it's hard to win.
That's the important thing right there. Is like Hendricks is good, except you can't expect him to beat Scherzer when he's pitching like that. And it's nice to get his start out of the way against Scherzer when you got John Lester pitching today,
right,
against Strasburg, and the Cubs are going to be looking to hand him his first loss. And then yesterday,
so far so good.
John Lackey was terrific against Gio Gonzalez.
Yeah, he played well against Gio Gonzalez, and Gio Gonzalez pitched okay, but not well enough. The Nationals scored all three of their runs on sacrifice flies, which was very interesting. Just saying that Lackey got a couple people on base, but he really limited the damage. He didn't give up hits. He was giving up some fly ball outs for sac
flies. The Nationals
flies.
did a great job manufacturing those three runs.
Yeah, they did. And then Almora just comes up in the top of the ninth, first pitch that he sees. In that at bat, he just rips a double and scored Addison Russell, and Addison Russell walked earlier, and David Ross moved him over. So it was a really a strategic win as far as how they won, and then as far as how Joe Madden used the bullpen there at the end.
Right, and another thing is that's the kind of game that the Cubs need to win. Those are the kinds of games they need to win more, because they've been winning games. Most of their wins are by 5 or more runs. It's nice to see them pulling out games like that, one-run games like that when they're pulling it out at the end. And Albert Almora has been turning some heads. He's been playing great defense. He's shown off his great baseball instincts, and he's done pretty well with the bat, and you really have to assume that he's definitely going to make the decision who gets sent down when Soler comes back from injury. He's going to make that decision tough for who goes, or maybe does somebody get traded.
Yeah, I was going to say not just sending people down, but the trade deadline, well, it's a little over a month away, but the trade deadline is approaching soon, and the way Almora's been playing, and he's also young and a lot of potential, and they need outfield help, especially good defensive outfield help, which Soler doesn't necessarily bring. They could be looking to trade Jorge Soler. I would not be upset about that. We like to have his power on the team, but the Cubs already have a lot of power as it is, and I think they can live without Soler. They're doing it right now. So I think, me personally, I would rather have Almora than Soler, although Almora is a smaller sample size right now. But if he continues to play well, approaching late July, mid-July, I think moving Soler might be a good move.
I mean, yeah, you never know. I mean, I think that in the long run, maybe in a year or two, Soler is probably going to be the guy to move, just because you can't live with him batting 180 and striking out every at bat in April and May.
Yeah,
you can't. You just can't happen. And
right.
he's probably belongs in a place that's going to be warm the majority of the season. Except you never know. He might heat up when he comes back from his injury, and then the Cubs recently acquired Chris Coghlan, and he swung the bat pretty well. How do you think Chris Coghlan feels? In the offseason, he gets traded away from a team that won 97 games, went to the playoffs. I mean, he's got to be just decimated.
Right.
Just crushed that he got traded.
Struggling in Oakland a lot, too.
And then he goes to Oakland, who is not very good. And then he gets the call from Billy Beane and says, "You're going back to Chicago."
Yeah, obviously he has to feel ecstatic about that. It's like when we didn't think Fowler was going to come back to the Cubs. We thought he signed with Baltimore, but something happened there, and boom, he re-signs with the Cubs. And
that move is
nice,
proving to be one of the most important moves in the entire offseason.
I think it probably is the most important, just because he's the leadoff hitter. And, how many times has he started off the game with a leadoff hit? It happened again yesterday. He's always doing a great job, and he's always has a good at bat too.
Right,
which is very important.
The important thing with that also is that it kept Hayward in right field instead of moving him to center field, which just makes their defensive versatility much better.
And plus, where would they be with that Schwarber injury if they didn't have Fowler on the team? That would be.
That might have forced an early Almora call-up.
Yeah, it definitely would have, I think.
Or maybe trade earlier for Chris Coghlan.
I guess, yeah. I don't know if Coghlan was always on the radar, but, he played well last year. That's for sure, and he's a pretty good defender, and he had some clutch hits last season for the Cubs. Hopefully he can do the same this year. He won't be playing as much this year, but,
no.
I think that's okay, because I don't necessarily want Coghlan playing that much, especially over Fowler and Hayward and Almora and Baez and Bryant and all the people that can play outfield.
Right, and another thing is he could be the odd man out when Soler comes back.
I guess, yeah.
He could, because I doubt that it'll be Caesar, because he's out of options and the Cubs really like him, and he's been hitting the ball really well this year as well.
He's a great pinch hitter.
Yeah, especially against left-handed pitching. So I don't see it being him just because he's out of minor league options.
Mm-hmm. Right. So obviously that's going to be a big move coming up, and it depends if it doesn't look like the Cubs are going to be trading for starters this year as far as the rotation is concerned. Just because they played really well, unless you want to prepare for Hamill not having a good second half.
Right. I think it's unfortunate that they won't be able to, because I just don't feel comfortable with this rotation in the playoffs. Not saying that it's bad or anything. Except beyond Arrieta and Lester. Lackey, I think, can be good in the playoffs, except I view him as a number 4 pitcher in your rotation in the playoffs for a team that wants to win the World Series.
Yeah.
And I just don't feel comfortable. I know Hendricks can be good enough as the number 4 in the playoffs, just in anticipation if Hamill falters down the stretch. Again, it's just I feel like they need another starter. Even though, right now, they have 5 really good starters, I just think that they need another one just to get that extra boost.
I think that's a good point. I think that would help, especially if, in the playoffs, if you're playing San Francisco and Washington. those are two really good hitting teams, and don't forget about the Mets either with their really good starting rotation too. So
right, and I think
it's going to be interesting.
Now would be a good time to compare all those teams' top 3 pitchers. Where San Francisco, you've got Bumgarner, Cueto, and Samardzija. And Samardzija,
it's a strong 3.
Since Samardzija got away from Don Cooper and the White Sox, he's been terrific again, which kind of makes you wish the Cubs would have gotten him when Theo was talking to him in the offseason.
Yeah.
Except obviously, he's coming off a ERA of almost 5, so it's really tough to hand out $95 million.
I don't think anyone anticipated that he would. I mean, it's so strange. He was good with the Cubs for like a year or two.
He was pretty good with the Athletics too.
Yeah, he was okay with the Athletics. He was horrible with the White Sox, and now he's good again with San Francisco. It was something with the White Sox that he didn't like.
Yeah, he might. I don't think he clicked.
That's his hometown team too.
I don't think he clicked well with Don Cooper because Cooper's the kind of pitching coach that tries to encourage pitchers with a cutter, where with Chris Bosio, he likes him using that sinker ball, the 2-seam fastball.
I mean, it's worked wonders with Arrieta, that's for sure.
So there you've got Bumgarner, Cueto, and Samardzija. I mean, and
pretty darn good.
And Bumgarner is almost unstoppable in the playoffs.
Yeah, when it matters most, he's probably he's one of the best in the National League sure.
He gave up 1 run. He might have given up 1 or 2 runs the entire postseason in their last World Series run.
Something like
that.
So,
I mean, you need to prepare for Bumgarner in the playoffs.
And he was facing Kansas City in the World Series, so, I mean, that's a good team.
A clutch team.
Yeah, a very clutch team. And then you look at the Mets, their rotation, top 3, I guess, you have Matt Harvey, Jacob deGrom, and
Noah Syndergaard.
I guess Noah Syndergaard would be the top 3, and then Steven Matz at
the
close 4.
See, that's the important thing. Matz is the number 4,
right? And he's pretty good. So
right. Where with the Giants, the number 4 is either Jake Peavy or Matt Cain, and then that's where their rotation.
No problem there.
See, that's where the Cubs rotation right now. You got then you go with the Cubs. Arrieta. I mean, there's not many pitchers you'd take over Arrieta if you need to win a 1-game playoff, especially with his performance against the Pirates last year.
The only one you would maybe take is maybe Scherzer and then Madison Bumgarner.
I mean, because Kershaw has not pitched very well. Kershaw has not pitched well in the playoffs.
Right.
Whereas you said Madison Bumgarner is great in the playoffs. And then I mentioned Scherzer. That brings us to the Nationals, where they've got him, Steven Strasburg, and then Joe Ross has been great.
Gio Gonzalez
has been pretty good.
Yeah.
So I mean that's just more really good pitching, and that's just kind of when you compare them to those rotations, or then the Cubs. I'd assume at this point you would go Arrieta, Lester, Lackey, and then you'd have Hamill as the number 4 guy.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Except I mean it also. That's just kind of like, you'd like to have another guy. Because, I mean, that's a good big 3, except when you compare to the Giants, because they got Cueto, Samardzija, and Bumgarner, that top 3 might be a little better because of how good Bumgarner has proven to be in the playoffs. And then, Lester versus Cueto, that's another intriguing matchup, except then when you get to Samardzija and Lackey, that's just kind of a... you like Lackey's experience, except Samardzija probably is going to end up having a better season. Because, I mean, I don't think Lackey's going to keep up his 2.50 ERA.
I would imagine that as the season goes on, there will be some more wear and tear on him. He is pretty old. He's, 38?
37.
37, so, he's the oldest guy in the rotation. But hopefully, he can be serviceable, and then come playoff time, you got to hope that he's on his game, because when he's off his game, he gets upset. He kind of turns into Carlos Zambrano the way that he gets upset. He pitches a lot better.
He doesn't get that bad, except it gets to kind of that level. And then the Nationals, their number 5 guy who'd probably be coming out of the bullpen in the playoffs is Tanner Roark, who's got a 2.93 ERA this season.
Yeah, I mean the bottom line is the National League, and especially the good teams in the National League this year, have some great starting pitching.
Great, I mean, a great top 3.
Yeah, so that means these games are going to be close. They're going to be tight, and
that means that game 1.
Be tough.
I mean, think about how important game 1's going to be.
Yeah,
because you cannot lose that game with your ace on the mound.
No,
in any series. Because, I mean, that's how good this.
If you're the Mets, Nationals, Giants, or Cubs, you have to win that game 1 with your ace on the mound. And
if you're playing,
that's the thing.
If you're playing one of the aforementioned teams, game 1 is crucial because you've got your ace on the mound now. With the Mets, it might not be as important because you really don't even know who their best pitcher is between Harvey and Syndergaard and DeGrom.
Yeah,
I mean
true.
that's 3 number ones right there. Assuming Harvey keeps turning his season around because he's been very good his last